Brad, we just got done talking. Let's see. This is about 18 hours ago. We were
Yeah,
done.
just about.
We just finished talking.
I haven't even changed my record back here. That's how quick of a turnaround.
I think people, as they were watching us, they could tell we were sort of a little apprehensive about talking about this Carlos Correa situation because there was no information coming from the Giants side on things. So we were just out in the wind speculating and hoping and crossing our fingers and hoping that, maybe the worst wouldn't happen, which was exactly what happened. Like, I can't imagine this could have gone any worse than it did with Carlos Correa signing with the Mets. Like, the way that this whole thing happened was quite fascinating. And, there's this talk about how Elon Musk and Twitter and, he's killing Twitter and this and that. As a utility for stuff like this, it was like the existence of Twitter was why we all knew what was going on. I thought that was really fascinating.
Yeah. Well, and the existence of social media and Twitter is the only reason we even knew in the first place that the Giants had come to a deal, because we've had, since this whole Correa thing, we've had one statement from the Giants, and it came today, and that's it. That's all we've had about the whole Carlos Correa thing, and I understand because it wasn't official.
Yes.
So I totally get that part of it, but you say it couldn't have gone worse. The only way this could have gone worse is if the Giants had never announced this, and the Giants never had a shot at him, and the Dodgers signed him.
Yeah, okay.
I think that's the only way it could have gone worse.
There you go. So let's break this whole thing down from after we recorded last night. And by the way, that was such a fun show. And I'm kind of glad that we didn't get the news before then, because it would have ruined our entire mood and it would have been like a downer of a show, because it was kind of like, it's like that moment before the worst thing happens and you have these two people who are sort of optimistic about this team. And now 18 hours later, it's the exact opposite. That we're not going to be Debbie Downers here. There's we're gonna break this down like like professionals, like podcast professionals.
There we go.
Okay, so I have so many notes on this thing, and so there's going to be a little bit of reading here, but we are going to discuss all that's happening. So at 11:43 p.m. last night, we get a text in our Giants chat from my youngest son, JJ, who almost never texts us in that chat.
So it's important at that.
Exactly. So it's important. But I thought, and the reason why I thought that he might have been duped on this thing is when we were searching for Carlos Correa news last night, there was lots of fake accounts, like trying to get people to retweet false information. So thank you again, Elon Musk. That is the Twitter universe that we live in today. So I thought, I was like, oh, he's getting duped. Like he doesn't know what he's talking about. Or not that he didn't know, but he was, it was just, he was getting duped. And so I look, that was not the case. Though I had a small hope that the person who was reporting this was wrong again, because that was one John Heyman, aka the creator of this new character, Arson Judge, that will live on forever.
Super villain.
So then I started digging in a little bit more to see the Heyman tweet, and then Susan Slusser, who's been so fantastic on this story, just amazing on this story, she reported and said that, let me see. It said, so Heyman's tweet was breaking. Carlos Correa and the Mets have a deal, $315 million, 12 years. Now, it doesn't make any sense without any context, right? Like, for those of us who are paying attention, Correa's medicals got flagged. That's all we knew. Then Heyman comes in and it's like, oh, he's with the Mets. And you're like, what? How could that possibly happen? He's supposed to sign with the Giants, right? And so just out of context, without knowing what was going on, that tweet was like, is this real? Like, what is going on here? Okay, so let's dig a little further. So that was sort of a reality. But as I was going to bed, I saw Slusser, who tweeted the following, confirming Correa to the Mets now after Giants flagged something in the physical and doctors disagreed. How and why? So that was her tweet. And for me, it was like, how and why did we not hear anything from the Giants this whole time? Because the PR aspect of this is the Giants did not give us any heads up that anything was wrong outside of the canceling of the press conference. So that is what I had to go to bed thinking. It was, oh my gosh, the Giants screwed up. What happened? And that was my nightmare going to bed.
Yeah.
Now you didn't see any of this, right? You'd already gone to sleep.
I hit the sack early last night. I was exhausted, just tired day, long day, lots of work going on and everything, getting ready for the holidays. So I think I shut everything down at 10 o'clock. And then I woke up and I immediately saw all of the alerts, MLB,
Yes.
SF Giants, Twitter. I didn't see your text string, even though I'm on it. So I sent that, and along with an F word to our group and said, this is happening. Then and then I turned on MLB Network, got the kids some breakfast. As I'm making breakfast, it's still like 6 o'clock in the morning at this point, and I'm watching MLB Network, and I'm trying to get this broken down for me of like exactly what happened.
Yes.
And even Vasgersian and Harold Reynolds were just shocked. They could barely even figure out what was going on because they were shocked. And then they had Susan Slusser on, and so she was able to kind of break it down a little bit more. Just a wild morning. Absolutely.
Yeah, and again, Slusser, in a dark time, she is the light because she is the one who is reporting on this. We didn't see anything from Baggerly, though Baggerly's off of Twitter at this point. And I just learned that Pavlovich was actually on the East Coast. After the Giants canceled the press conference, he had scheduled something with his wife and she's from the East Coast, so that's where he was. So Susan Slusser was our hero here, getting us the information. Now, I got ahead of myself. We didn't know that there was the flagged medicals piece until Susan said that. So she was the one that kind of broke the news. We kind of thought like, yeah, I wonder if there's something with the medicals, but that wasn't confirmed until Slusser, which makes Heyman's tweet so funny because he literally just tweeted that he signed, and there's no why behind it. There's no like he's just like, this is the news, and so that's his job, and I get it, but man, it would have been nice to have some more information about that. Okay, so wake up this morning. That's a story. So what does this mean? And Jeff Passan from ESPN, he wrote, when a player and team agree to terms, they strike a deal on contract details, years, dollars, bonuses, opt-outs, no trades, all of those stuff. A team sends a term sheet to the player, and the player signs it. But that agreed upon contract is not official until a player passes a medical examination, which includes MRIs, blood work, other general health tests. While it's rare, teams do occasionally flag a player's medicals, which allows for two outcomes. A renegotiation, or B, it being scrapped altogether. And that is what happened with the Giants. Now, we were following the Correa thing from the beginning, and I think this was one of your concerns, was that he had this back issue going back a few years. And, Aaron Judge had similar tweaky injuries because he's just such a big dude. But Correa, we know that he had some back issues in the past. Now, the last 2 years, he averaged around, or maybe even a little bit more than 140 games per season. So it wasn't like a recent, thought. The back injury goes back a few years. And so now we're sort of wondering, okay, what could it have been? Like, I just assume that it's the back, but we don't actually know that yet because nobody has said anything about what was flagged. And the Giants probably won't say anything because of, HIPAA laws and all that stuff where they can't, if Correa wants to say it, right?
Sure.
He can say it, but the Giants can't actually say it for him.
Right. And if Boris wants to say it, which he already has kind of alluded to the fact that, hey, there's some medical stuff we didn't agree on, and that's where we're at right now. And it's going to take time because I'm getting asked, of course, by friends and such throughout the day today, are you upset about this? Are you upset? Honestly, I don't know if we're gonna know if we dodged a bullet for another 4 or 5 years at this point, because if medically the guy is fine in, let's say, 7 or 8 years of the 13-year deal, then yeah, okay, that's a bummer. And if he's playing good baseball, yeah, okay, we struck out and missed on that one. But we won't know. It's not gonna be if he has a great year this year, that's not going to tell you what 13 years is going to look like. And bottom line, again, 13 years is a really, really long time. If you are nervous about somebody's back, if you're nervous about does he have an arthritic knee? As a Rams fan, I could tell you Todd Gurley had an arthritic knee. He had a fantastic career. And then all of a sudden, before he even hit 31 years old, was out of the league. Yeah. So, I mean, that's, knees can be a problem, arthritic, something that can go on for years again, but we can speculate. Like I said last night on the show, heart issue, did they find some sort of medical heart issue that could be a problem down the line? So many different things, and things are coming out now that it's possible the Giants weren't going to be able to insure this contract because of those medical issues. And if that's true, are the Mets going to be able to? I don't know. Different insurance company. Who knows? I mean, maybe they have a back alley insurance company and they can get things pushed through a little easier.
Cohen doesn't seem to be worried about that in any way.
He doesn't. No.
So I agree with you 100%. We're not going to know until years in. The problem with, I think the big problem, or the big reason to be upset is, the Giants are loosey with the football, and we're Charlie Brown as fans, right?
Yeah, 100%.
This is consistently happening where we're in on a guy, we don't get him, and we gave our best shot. And that's why I did the Last Judge report yesterday, is because it was sort of the same thing with Aaron Judge and the Giants. It's like, no, we're going to be competitive in the deal. But let's make sure, it wasn't, let's win the deal. It was, we're going to be competitive. And that in of itself is kind of a PR thing. So that's my frustration. By the way, people who are watching us live, if you have thoughts, type them into the comments and we'll show them on screen and maybe even create a little bit of a discussion around them. Okay, let's get back to the story. And by the way, bone broth, those who watch us, they know that we do, we have we have a drink while we're doing our show, but it is the afternoon. I'm on my lunch break and I'm drinking bone broth.
I'm going straight to a workout after this. So yes, hydrating. That's what I'm doing.
Okay. So more from Jeff Passan. The Giants contract with the star shortstop fell apart after the team expressed concerns during the physical examination, prompting Correa to reopen his free agency and sign in the middle of the night with the Mets. Before he agreed to terms, originally, the Mets had made an 11th hour run at him. The deal did not come to fruition then. A week later, the most astonishing move of the offseason is one past physical from becoming a reality, a caveat with particular import to this contract. And if there wasn't enough of a little bit of a tug on the heartstrings here, he's going to be their third baseman. Lindor is going to still be their shortstop.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Giants were radio silent until they weren't, and we'll talk about Farhan's comment later in a few. So how did this happen? How did the Mets swoop in like a thief in the night? Especially because the Giants knew that late in the original negotiations, the Mets came in and tried to swoop him. Sort of like the Yankees got Judge back, and the Giants had the better, whatever the better thing. Maybe they offered the 13th year Maybe that was why they offered the 13th year, because even on this contract, Correa only got 12. Only, I say only, so it's it's almost the same average per year as well. So, how did that happen? Well, Scott Boras is his agent for a reason, right? He is savvy, and he's going to get the best thing for his contract. So, from Susan Slusser again, Scott Boras tells me that after the Giants canceled their press conference yesterday, they indicated they still wanted to negotiate, but he didn't hear anything more from them. And 12 hours later, the Mets deal got worked out. How does that happen? How do the Giants not stay in contact with him, unless he's maybe writing his own narrative here? But if he was, I would have imagined that the Farhan comment that we're going to talk about in a second would have mentioned that part, but he didn't. So I'm just assuming that Boras is right, that the Giants did not get back to him in any way.
Yeah, and I think if Boras is 100% truthful, and I don't think he has any reason not to be, because again, if there's any kind, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but I'm just saying in the regular world, that's not the sports world. If you're going to say something like that, and then there's going to be a lawsuit at some point, and you say there was no contact for 12 hours, well, you can pull phone records, you can pull emails. So I mean, yeah, I don't think he has a reason to lie. And if that is truly the case, then this is an obvious case of the Giants having cold feet and deciding this deal is not for us. There is something in that medical record, something that our doctors are saying that is telling us this is not going to work for 13 years. So we'd like to renegotiate, but also knowing Boras, that's not an easy process. And you're this late in the game in free agency. The Giants also had to have known that there were other suitors for Correa, and we know the Twins were one of them, that another team would have popped in and said, well, we'll go ahead and take him. That's not a problem. So the Giants, by being silent for 12 hours, knew exactly what could possibly happen, and that scenario happened. So they're probably
and maybe almost that they just wanted it to happen. But
exactly.
That's such a PR nightmare, though. Like, how do you
It is.
Yeah.
And especially coming off of the lowest attendance in Oracle history. And you had this offseason with Brinks trucks full of cash, ready to give out to players. But now we're in the situation where Adam Duvall is still out there.
Yay.
Jurickson Profar is still out there. I mean, this is where we're at now, where Trey Turner is gone. Xander Bogaerts is gone. Dansby Swanson is gone. They're gone. There's nobody left. And not only are they gone, they're locked up for 7+ years.
Oh, yeah.
So we're not going to see this shortstop boon that we just saw again for quite a while. So I think they might have, pretty much bit the bullet on this one and said, there's always next year.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. Luciano, don't start playing left field quite yet, because we might need you.
Okay, so Jason has a point that I think a lot of the Giants fans feel right now, which is that they don't deserve the benefit of the doubt because of the history of being unable to finish these big deals and maybe just being completely risk averse. And you know what's funny about that is I was talking to Jarrett Seidler, who we've talked to before. He sent me a quote. I think it was an Andrew Friedman quote. And I thought it, like, I don't know if it exactly is, defines who the Giants are in this day and age of baseball free agency. But he said, the quote is, and he didn't have the exact quote, but it's something that goes to the point of, if you are always rational in the market, you'll always come in third on every player, which kind of fits the Giants to a T, right? Like, they're like the way that they do business. They are not Steve Cohen, or to a Warriors, we are in the Bay Area Sports Network, to a Warriors fan, Joe Lacob. Like, Joe Lacob is the highest luxury tax bill in the history of the NBA. And that's how the Warriors work. And the Giants are kind of the opposite of that. They don't go full bore into these contracts for the risk averse, like Jason said.
Right. But and here's the question, because again, I keep saying all day long, I don't know who to be pissed off at right now. We just don't know. Is it Boris? Is it Correa? Is it Cohen? Is it Zadie? Is it Bear? Is it Johnson? We don't know who to be pissed off at yet. Unfortunately, fans are going to be pissed off at Kapler and the Giants on the field. They're going to take the brunt of it because they're the face. They're there, even though they had nothing to do with any of this. But that's the question. And you talk about being apprehensive and coming in third and second. Is that ownership, or is that baseball operations? We don't know. As ownership said, go spend money, but baseball operations are like, yeah, but that's not how we do things. So there's
okay, but we do have some proof,
right?
And the proof is in the deals that they sign pitchers to, right? Carlos Rodon, they signed him to essentially a 1-year deal last year and said, pitch here, you're going to do great, and then you'll make your money elsewhere.
Right.
That elsewhere was not here. They did the same thing with Stripling and Manaea. And on the surface, those deals are really smart because you're not locked into the 5-year Matt Cain deal where the last 2 or 3 years he's just not the same guy. But at the same time, the rest of baseball is kind of moving in this other direction. So the Giants are kind of going against the grain here with, locking in guys. Because now you mentioned this at the top, lowest attendance in Giants history at Oracle Park, at McCovey Cove. That matters. And some of this risk averseness, some of these 1 year, who bought a Carlos Correa jersey for their child last year, and now that jersey is you're going to put pinstripes on it because he's with the Yankees. So that stuff is not something that we necessarily look into, the marketing of the team, but it's pretty clear that the Giants are in third place in this market behind the 49ers and the Warriors, and they are a distant third at this point. And that that's unfortunate. And I hope that they feel that. I hope the team feels that. Alex Pavlovich and Cole Kuiper did a emergency podcast this morning, and they were kind of laughing because there were ticket sale emails that went out during the recording of their podcast. And that is not these emails are kind of scheduled and timed and everything. So, but there couldn't have been a worse time to send out that email, right?
It came out. Yeah, it came out and said, "Come to spring training. Here's your spring training tickets are on sale." Oh my God, the timing is just. I mean, but yeah, like you said, you could time an email. It's just going to go out when it's going to go out. Maybe somebody forgot and said, let's just wait one more day.
I don't know. Okay, let's get back to this. So more from Susan. And she says, this is her analysis on sort of the quotes that Boris gave her. It sounds as if there was a very old Correa injury pre-MLB. That is something that I've only heard from her, so I don't even know what that could possibly be.
Yeah.
That was raised as a potential issue. It has cropped up again. None of Correa's other physical issues have required medical intervention or ongoing treatment. If this was a true medical concern, it sounds a little tenuous. And if it was a matter of cold feet, that is usually ownership, not the front office. We won't know what happened from their viewpoint unless or until the Giants discuss this. If they do, which it seems like they will not. Now, we are fans of the writing of The Athletic, and the big dog at The Athletic, Ken Rosenthal, also talked to Scott Boras. And he has Scott Boras quoted as saying, "We reached an agreement. We had a letter of agreement. We gave them a time frame to execute it. They advised us they still had questions. They still wanted to talk to other people, other doctors, go through it. I said, look, I've given you a reasonable time. We need to move forward on this. Give me a time frame. If you're not going to execute, I need to go talk with other teams." Okay. I think this is an important quote because the longer there was a delay in this process, and the reason why, at least the reason why I think why Boris wanted to act quickly is word gets out that the Giants are worried about the medicals. And let's say the Giants just go like, nope, we're not doing this. That hurts Correa in this market, right? Because all of a sudden it gives all the other teams some negotiating power against Boris. So Boris gets out ahead of this news and has a deal ready with the owner who probably doesn't care. The Dodgers, if this was the Dodgers, they probably are a little conservative on this as well, though they're not signing Correa anyways, which is why I use them as the example. But Boris was like, the longer I wait, the less Correa makes, and ultimately the less that Boris makes on that deal. And so he's trying to find the best deal for his client. This is why this guy is the top agent in baseball. So he's looking at this opportunity as like, we cannot wait, because the longer you make us wait, if you decide to not do this, we are screwed with the contract as it is. So I wanted to make that point. Okay. So more from Boris. He says, about the medicals, every team has a right to go through things and evaluate things. The key thing is we gave them medical reports at the time. They still wanted to sign the player and negotiate with the player. So he's basically saying, we told you this in advance, and now you're telling us that it's not going to work. So he's pushing the blame big time on the Giants. Like, this is like, we gave you everything, and only now at the last hour of this, you are having questions. And so that's interesting. And I wonder if that sort of hurts their relationship with him and future clients. Now, if they just offer the most money for it, it probably doesn't matter at all. But, there's the relationship with these agents that is important. And it looks like this one was not a good situation for Scott Boris and Carlos Correa and the Giants.
Yeah, that's tough to say because, it is a business. Business is business. They can blow this type of stuff off. If a deal has to be made next year for a different player, then, I think Boris is professional enough. He's been around long enough. I don't think he's going to shun any team. He's not going to shun any. There'd have to be a really bad situation. I think this is just kind of an amicable look. It didn't work out. He got somewhere else. He's getting his bag. No big deal. Whatever. Move on. And so I really don't know if it's going to hurt. The only thing that is going to hurt, I think, is that the players out there are going to see that the Giants aren't landing anybody. People keep coming to us. People keep making visits and then going somewhere else.
We're going to talk about that in a second here. That is definitely on my list of
that's what hurts. I don't think the business part of it is going to hurt. I think the on-field relationship part of it is going to be the most painful. So
okay. So what about the Giants here? They were radio silent all day yesterday, up until early this morning, and you predicted exactly what Farhan would say about Correa. Here was Farhan's quote. While we are prohibited from disclosing confidential medical information, as Scott Boris stated publicly, there was a difference in opinion over the results of Carlos's physical examination. And this is the one that gets me. We wish Carlos the best. Oh my God. Okay. So that's all you got, Farhan. That's your quote. That's your first announcement to this fan base who is so frustrated and has so many questions and like so heartbroken about this. We wish Carlos the best. Okay. So, for 6 minutes, we had Arson Judge, only for the Italy vacationing Hal Steinbrenner to make a deal when supposedly the Giants were the leaders in the clubhouse. Then this happens. It was almost like it was too good to be true, right? Like we never win this, win these things. And I feel maybe more fervor from the fan base than I've felt in quite a long time. So I have some big questions for you, and we'll get out of here. Okay, and these are kind of unanswerable, but I just want to raise them because I think this is what we should try and focus on here. What is the injury, and were the Giants overly cautious, or did management just get cold feet on this deal? Like, I think that's where we sort of like, is it a Farhan thing? Is it an ownership thing? Susan said if it is about medical history, it's probably an ownership thing about getting cold feet. Now, you mentioned this insurance thing. And Farhan is kind of the face. Like, part of his responsibility is to be the voice to the fans of the ownership, right? Larry Baer has pulled back on a lot of that stuff, and it is like Farhan's situation here. Another question. Who are the big free agents next year? It's Devers and Ohtani, but I'm calling it right now. Ohtani's signing with the Mets. We don't even have to discuss this. Right? Like, why wouldn't he go to the Mets?
If he goes to the Mets, it's got to be a little bit creative. They're already what, $100 million over the luxury tax.
Yeah, they surpassed the Cohen tax.
Yeah, exactly. But so Scherzer is going to be off the books in another year. Verlander got like a 2-year deal. So he'll be so they'll have to get a little creative just to. Again, I say that, but look, I don't even think that he cares. I mean, he's got so much money. This doesn't bother him at all. So, I mean, yeah, sure. He's probably going to go there, or he's probably going to end up in LA with the Dodgers. They're going to have a better idea next year, I think, with the Bauer situation, how much money they can spend. I have, as a Giants fan now, I have zero confidence that we're going to land either of those two free agents. I mean, at this point, and here's the problem too, is that the farm system started to flourish, started to grow. Now we're back down to ranked number 18th on the list. So it's not like we have waiting in the wings, the next Fernando Tatis that's going to pop up, or Julio Rodriguez who's going to pop up, and all of a sudden we're going to be okay because we have that guy. Yeah. Kyle Harrison, maybe, but again, now you're talking about you've got two pitchers who are homegrown talents in Webb and Harrison. And then you have a retiring Brandon Crawford, and you have Tyro Estrada, and you have Mitch Haniger. I mean, by the way, things are tough.
I saw this one out there. The Giants signed Haniger. They weren't worried about his medicals. And the thing that I will say, and not to give the Giants any benefit of the doubt, but Haniger is on a very short deal compared to what
and so that's what, and like you had mentioned too, was it ownership with the cold feet? Was it front office with the cold feet? I mean, there's a chance ownership stepped in and said, look, 13 years with this medical report is not something we want to do at this point. Yep. Yes, we're going to lose a big free agent. We're going to lose a face of the franchise. But if he's not on the field as much as we'd like him to be, what does it matter? If we want to put butts in the seats to come see this player, but we're basing all of this on this medical report, that's a tough pill for us to swallow. Is it we say Charles Johnson, but he is the majority stakeholder, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about Charles Johnson.
He's a big Herschel Walker fan, by the way.
He is, and that's another issue, because we're looking at this saying he's donating a lot of money out to Herschel Walker and to other, I don't want to get political, but the people
we kind of wish he would donate that to Carlos Correa and
or Aaron Judge at that point. I mean, if you're looking at 360 jump in and I mean, but again, do the Giants even? We could say this all we want to. Do the Giants even know that that Judge had gone back to Hal Steinbrenner, and Steinbrenner was like, "Here's the deal."
I feel like it's their job to know that, though. I mean, if Buster Olney figures it out, they sort of have to know that.
It's possible, and we'll never know. I mean, this Giants front office is a very silent front office. And as a Rams fan, I know what that's like, because the Rams front office, even though they make crazy moves and they do all kinds of weird stuff, it is quiet, and you don't know what happens, and you don't know it's going to happen until the second it happens.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how this Giants front office is also.
All right, let's get through the last couple things here before we get out of here. Okay, what do the Giants do? What can they do? You just mentioned the folks who are available right now. Here's my fear. My fear is that they believe that trading for Brian Reynolds will be a little bit of a save face, and maybe they just decide, like, look, we're just going to have to eat this and not really ruin anything for the future. But if they did, it won't save face because Brian Reynolds is not Aaron Judge or Carlos Correa, and B, it's a crazy price that I don't know if any of us want them to pay, especially because they're probably going to be fighting to be as good as they were last year, which is a 500 team, which means another third place finish and maybe even fourth place, because Arizona has some nice young players there. So most of the offensive players are now swooped up. Can they do anything else? They got all kinds of money now. This is going to be another low payroll for them because they can't sign anybody. Maybe it could be a bullpen thing. Maybe they just sign a bunch of players to these one-year deals and get them off the books for next year. I don't know, but kind of like going back to what you said earlier, what big fish can they bring in if they don't have any corresponding players? Correa and Lindor are going to be the side of the left side of that infield for the next 10 years, and there's $600 million invested in those guys, and they're friends, and they're going to play on the same World Baseball Classic team, I think. So, like, there's a connection there, and there's a star player connection there, and the Giants don't have any of that. Who is the biggest star player on the team right now?
On the Giants?
Yeah.
Logan Webb. Logan Webb is it. Logan Webb is the star. The fan favorite is Brandon Crawford. The star, the best player on the Giants, is Logan Webb, who's also on the USA team for the World Baseball Classic, like I said. So this, I mean, it's
how many non-Giants fans could pick him out of a police lineup?
Oh, none.
Right.
Zero. Yeah. Absolutely zero.
And we love him. This is not a diss at him.
Absolutely not. And us as Giants fans don't want him anywhere else. We're huge fans. All right. And Giants fans love their players. And that's, I think, what makes this whole Correa thing so tough. We love our players so much. We were willing to embrace Carlos Correa and his faults and say he's ours now.
Yeah.
And the Dodger fans hate him, and the Dodgers hate him. So he's ours even more now because of that. So we were all on board for 6 straight days, man.
Yeah.
We were, or 7 straight days, whatever it is now. We were all on board. And so I think that's what makes this hurt the most. But again, I still don't know yet who I'm pissed off at. So,
all right.
I just know I'm disappointed and I'm pissed, but I don't know at who yet.
Yeah. I mean, and it's so soon. Okay. Two notes and we'll get out of here. Is this now a throwaway year? Because Alex Pavlovich and Cole Kuiper talked about how maybe now you have to pull back completely and you don't really do anything. You don't make any big moves that could jeopardize your future because there's no reasons to do so. You maybe can't compete right now with the current team that you put on the field. So that was a note from them. And the last thing, and this was I thought this was interesting from their podcast, Pavlovich said that the Giants haven't been communicating with their players very well this offseason, and he's heard from several players. He said Brandon Crawford didn't know he was moving off of shortstop until he saw the news that they signed Correa. Think about that.
Wow.
This is a team with 75 coaches, and no one is cluing him in or keeping him in the mix, and maybe they don't know, but that's just bad communication. And I'll end it with this. Get it together, Giants. Jesus Christ. Yeah. Just get it together.
What I said last night on our show was, this is the show me year for Farhan. 107 wins, then you go to 81. Now what are you going to do this year? If they don't
They're going to
make
be
the
fighting for
playoffs,
81.
yeah, exactly. If they don't make the playoffs, there is no Farhan front office in 2024. That's going to be it. This will be his last season. But again, we don't know all the details of this. We don't know if the front office, we don't know if the ownership is patting him on the back and saying, way to get out of this deal. We didn't want this deal. This was tough with these medical records. We didn't want this. And they're all on board together and everything's good and they're moving forward and there's a plan. We won't know the plan. We don't know the plan. That's what it is. We don't know the plan for this year. I'm sure, like you said, tough on communication. I'm sure if it's a throwaway year, Mitch Haniger would have loved to have known that beforehand.
Yes.
Jock Peterson would have loved, although Jock Peterson didn't have he did have a choice. He took the qualifying offer.
Yeah.
He would have liked to have known what was going to happen. And again, nothing was guaranteed. Nothing was, when Haniger was signed, there was no judge. There was no Carlos Correa on the horizon. There was none of that.
But so you would think that he signed knowing that the Giants were convinced that they were going to make a bigger deal.
Yes. And when you're in the San Francisco market, it's really not acceptable to rebuild. It just isn't. You're in a top 5 market. It's not acceptable to go through a rebuild year. So if this is a rebuild year, you better get Kyle Harrison up there as fast as possible because fans are going to want to see him. You're going to have a lot of fans dressed as empty seats this season, so you got to fix that.
That may be the slogan. It's kind of expensive to come here. Go into the secondary market and pick up those $10 tickets that those guys won't be able to get rid of.
Exactly. Or the Giants had better drop those ticket prices to $10 themselves because it's gonna be nasty this year. And
all right,
PR wheels better start spinning more than a single 2 sentences from Farhan. It better start coming out tonight.
I wonder if Buster's like, yeah, can I get my money back?
Yeah, you know what? And through all this, we forget that Buster is on the board. Buster is an owner, and this is happening under his watch. So yeah. I don't know, man.
All right. Well, Brad, thank you for taking time out of your lunch to do this. Of course. We went 42 actual minutes. So it was like almost another full podcast on this emergency breaking news podcast on Carlos Correa. But for Brad, I am Double G. We'll see you when we see you. Peace out.
Peace.